So to me, the fact that we can see something like this is great. I can take you more recently to an experience in California. And there is a person I work with, Megan Joseph, and she is now the director of community coalitions in United Way. And what we've done is worked with ex-offenders, with people from government, with police, with community organizers. And basically, the breakthrough initiatives are beautiful, powerful. And to me, this is the work of being able to notice what's not working and be able to generate alternatives in the way the rules are formed, in the way norms, cultural norms are there, sourced from within. And so today we have people trying to change the 3 strikes law. There are people working on recidivism. There is Vernon, who was an ex-offender in solitary confinement, leading work that is to stop violence in schools. There is Jordan, who was...
Vernon's black, isn't he?
Yes,
So this has been a tremendous...
It's been fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah, or like Kirsten, she's the head of monitoring in the National Park Services right now. And how do we monitor? Because what we measure is what we move.
Yes.
So how do we measure something that's different so that the systems move differently?
Yes.
And that's Kirsten's huge contribution.
Yes.
Or I'll take you to India and Uma and Oroville. So Oroville has, you know, everyone has a point of view of what that is. But I just feel Uma is this unusual woman. She was, you know, married in her childhood, broke through the traditional barriers from a village in Bihar, and today she taught herself fashion and design. And she came to do a workshop in Oroville. For her, she just sees systems. So she comes into Oroville and she develops a business model for women to be able to weave the ancient silk patterns from all over the country and sell them in a way that is about beauty, but it's also about the women who come and work and the men who come and work. And I'll give you an example from her life. So one morning someone told her, you know, in India a lot of farmers commit suicide because of the cotton and the seed and they are getting you know, they have to take loans and the farmers can't pay it back. And she then said, I'm going to promote organic cotton. So overnight, she changed her entire business to only source organic cotton. Then she goes to Benares for something. She was invited and she's sitting there and she sees this weaver comes and says, you know, sister, will you buy this wood from me today? And she says, but what is this wood? She says, it's my loom and I don't have money to feed my children. She says, the whole night I cried. Next morning, I have a program for weavers. So she's a woman who can see the pattern that is not working. Her production unit has 0 waste, all green, and in the middle of India, Oroville. Isn't this amazing?
It's amazing.
So for her, this work has been able to connect. What this work does is, someone like Uma is naturally organized that way. She didn't go through a program with me. She can just see that and she does it. She said, but it's done 3 things for her. The first thing it's done, it's connected the dots in a way that's coherent. So she can scale it up. So you need coherence to scale it up. So she can see the whole pattern through this model that we work with. The second thing is, she says, I can spread it now in my own company. So I actually did a 2-day process with the women and men in her company to get them to connect the dots, to see the pieces. And we used Annie Leonard's film Story of Stuff to create a pattern that's outside them and said, okay, so what's the pattern inside your company? And it worked. It was simply beautiful. And the new things that are happening there are great. So we can activate this, whether the space is in a developed country or a developing country. So this is not meant for those people who don't have. In fact, it's quite the other way around. In business school, there was, when I was working in Notre Dame with Professor Leo Berg, there was the CEO of a company, and there was a program, and he wanted to, in fact, there were two examples out of business that are great. One of them was about the CEO who had different production units, and they were sort of not, it wasn't working. And he used some of the tools, approaches, and the whole philosophy. And he came back and said that we created a path-breaking shift in the way our production units worked, Pat Finneran. And then there was another gentleman, his name was Mike Kachi, and he worked for a company where he was head of HR, and they had to let go 6,000 people, or so was his mandate when he came. But he said, I am about compassion, about fairness. By the time he came back, he had retooled the 6,000 jobs. No one lost a job. Everyone did well. The company did better. And so for me, it's absolutely profitable. Absolutely, yeah. So
you've been very eloquent in how you've shown us these examples in different words. But the truth also is that this vision that we both share, I call it sacred activism, you call it systems change, this vision is very challenging to two groups of people at this moment who are the most sensitive relating to this great mega shift that we're going through. It's challenging to the conventional spiritual people who still believe that a shift in consciousness is going to be enough, that sending the odd check to the Sierra Club or going to a soup kitchen and serving is enough. It's not enough because systems have to change, and because people with spiritual consciousness have to act in a situation as extreme as ours. And the other group, and we've talked a lot about this, and it's very important, I believe, the other group that really needs to hear what you're saying, and what I hope I'm saying, are the activists who are still, many of them, so resentful of any spiritual talk, so antagonistic to the source, and therefore addicted to patterns of action which lead to burnout. Could you address what I've said? Because I think it's so important that we get
Andrew,
into this.
I'd begin by saying that these two groups, people who are truly engaged in consciousness work and activists, are actually doing a great service by opening up spaces that the average citizen doesn't open up.
Right.
So to begin
already
with,
they're already,
they're already engaged in a way that's different from everyday work.
Yes.
Right? So except that the doors they enter through becomes the only door.
Right.
Yeah. And so for me, what's different in these two groups from the average citizen is that they are engaged differently.
Yes.
So that to me in itself is great because
it's a very good beginning.
It's a great beginning because it's the willingness to shift out of a pattern or a habitual way of engagement in society. So these are people who are willing to take up challenges differently. Now, to me, the world of the sacred, I think, has an assumption that if we engage deeply, we will automatically, it'll trickle out or trickle down or trickle sideways.
If we engage with the sacred, that will be enough.
That will be enough.
Right.
And I always say personal transformation is a necessary but not sufficient condition for social transformation, because it requires a true heartbreak. It requires courage, and it requires the ability to see and create new patterns.
And it requires standing up for what you discover to be the sacred's deep laws of compassion, dignity, and justice.
To me, standing up and speaking out are one of the most important things. I often say that for people who are in places of influence, the biggest thing that they can do is not just promote an idea, but promote 1,000 people who have the courage to make a difference. That truly we need people to support those who are willing to stick their necks out and take a risk.